Dr. Insinyur Retna Astuti, MS, Excellency, the Head of Agriculture Science Doctoral Program, Universitas Medan Area, Professor Insinyur Zulkarnain Lubis, PhD, and the Honorable the Speaker from University Malaysia Perlis, Professor Dr. MD Aminul Islam, Honorable lecturers and staff, of Universitas Medan Area, and the Honorable for all participants of this guest lecture. First of all, let us thank you for the prize and presence of Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, who has provided guidance and blessing for us. Therefore, we can gather and be present together in guest lecture with the title Professor Dr. MD Aminul Islam, Writing and Publishing Research Papers in Indexed Journals. Area, and the Honorable for all participants of this guest lecture. First of all, let us thank you for the prize and presence of Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. Why we have two sounds? Guidance and blessing for us. Therefore, we can gather and be. Okay. Let me continue. Sorry. To shorten the time, Professor Retna Astuti Kuswardani, please to deliver some speech. To Professor Retna Astuti, time is yours.
Okay, thanks, Angga. Yeah. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good evening and all the best wishes to all of us. Praise our gratitude to the presence of Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala, who gives us health, strength, and fight. The Honorable Head and Secretary of Agriculture Doctoral Study Program, Professor Zulkarnain Lubis, PhD, and Angga Tarigan. Our guest lecturer, Professor Dr. Aminul Islam from University Malaysia Perlis, and committee and also participant in the guest lecture, writing and publishing research papers in indexed journal with a postgraduate as of the University of Medan Area. Would like to express our gratitude for holding this guest lecture with the theme writing and publishing research papers in indexed journal. We consider this activity has to be held considering that writing scientific article that is to be published in reputable international journal is often a major obstacle for students and lecturers. We hope that from this, even the lecturer and student will gain knowledge about information and publication strategies in reputable international journal. The more publication of lectures and students in reputable international journal will certainly improve the quality of the study program performance. For this reason, we hope that the participant can take part in the guest lecture, participant in an orderly manner and use the best of the opportunities. Finally, please follow the guest lecture happily with the theme of writing and publishing research papers in index journal. May this even blessing to all of us. Amin, amin, ya rabbal alamin. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thanks, Angga Tarigan. Yeah.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Professor Dr. Retna Astuti. And then we directly to the important section will be hosted by Professor Zulfikar Lubis as the moderator. To Professor Zulfikar Lubis, time is yours.
Profesor Zulkarnain Lubis, Angga. You false, ya.
I'm sorry.
Prof, you have to unmute your microphone.
Sorry. Okay. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. The Honorable, the Director of Postgraduate Students, Professor Ratno Astuti, I would like to thank for her support and attention. And the Honorable Professor Dr. Aminul Islam, my close friend, the speaker who will be giving the lecture today. Assalamualaikum, Prof. How are you? I hope you are all right and in a good condition.
Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillah.
Prof. Aminul was my colleague when I was a visiting professor at the UNIMAP. He was one of the academicians that frequently discussed and communicated with me about anything, especially about how to supervise students, especially how to explain the student about the research method. So deliberately, I invite him as a guest lecturer today based on his experience and wonderful reputation on research. On research or writing scientific articles as well as a book, and also supervising a lot of PhD students. So definitely I think I have made a right decision to ask him through this session. Actually, the lecture was only aimed to the PhD student, but I think because of this important lecture, I asked other students, lecturers, and also other students from other program, other department of UMA, other students from other university, and also other lectures. So it will become, it will open already for others. So not only for the PhD student of University Medan area. So Prof, at last you could come to Medan, although only virtually. Yeah? Hopefully one day you can come here in real. I remember at the time I even asked you to come to Medan. You said that due to the immigration consideration, it is difficult for you to some countries, including Indonesia. But I think one day you should come to Medan, so then I can treat you any kinds of food, any kinds of drink, or any kinds of traditional goods or whatever. So hopefully one day you can come here. Okay, anyway, the topic discussed today is very relevant for us. Either the doctoral student, master student, or the lecturers. For the student, it will be very useful in order to help you for preparing articles as one of the requirements to complete your study. On the other hand, for the lecturers, it will be much more important because writing ability and access to international journal are the two main problems for lectures that needed for promoting their lecture functional precision. So hopefully the guest lecture today will be very useful for us so that we can increase our ability in writing articles and have larger access to publish our articles and at international journal. Okay, all right. Let's start the presentation first, and then we will continue to Q&A session. I don't know if it is enough or not. For me, we'll spend around 30 to 45 minutes for presentation and 30 minutes for Q&A. But Prof, do you think it is enough or you have a suggestion?
Prof, I think I prepare slide. I would need more time than that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So okay, it's free for you. So feel free how long that you want to. Okay. So you can use much more long time than it. Okay. Okay, Bros. Now I think it's time for you and go ahead. It's time for you.
All right. Thank you, Prof. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillah, assalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. Sister Angata Regan, Professor Dr. Insigne Ratna Astuti, right? The Director of Postgraduate Studies of University Medan Area. Professor Insigne Dr. Zulkarnain Lubis, the Head of Agriculture Science of Dr. Department, right, at University Medan Area. And those of you who have joined here, Assalamu alaikum and a very good afternoon. We do have few participants already joined from Nigeria and few other countries. They have already WhatsApp me, they have already joined and they are already with us. So for them, it's a very good morning. It's I think about 9 o'clock, 8 o'clock in the morning. All right, so first of all, thank you, Prof. Zulkarnain. He is like my big brother. We were like brother, we are like brother, we are like a good friend. And even though Prof. Zulkarnain is quite senior to me, but he was a bit different. We are very brotherly. We used to share many things. We used to work together on many areas. And of course, because we need a visa to go to Indonesia, so I can go, but we have to apply for visa, and it takes, I think, about 2 weeks to process and all that. So inshallah, once COVID is over, if Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala permits, so one day I will visit Medan, inshallah. Datuk Kamaruddin was asking me to go to Aceh. So he said once the pandemic is over, he wants me to go to University of Budia, Ibu Marniatis University. He wants me to go there once. So possibly at the same time, we can go once in Medan, inshallah. All right, if you are, is my voice very clear, Prof? Okay, okay.
Yes, very
okay,
clear.
then let me share the screen and start. Basically, I started my academic career in 1995, but my publication I started only in 2007. By then, nobody actually told me that I should be writing paper and publishing papers. And while I was working with Olympia College Penang, I supervised many MBA students, and nobody advised me or guided me that I should be writing papers. So I lost the opportunity of writing and publishing many papers at that time. So it was only 2007. I started writing the papers. The first paper I published in a conference in Penang. And that was the very humble beginning. And now, alhamdulillah, I have published already 202 papers in this, how many years? Starting from 2007, so it's about 14 years. Or 14 years, I managed to publish about 202 papers. Most of the papers are contributed by my PhD students and postdoctoral students. And I am very ethical. I do not let my name be number one. If you look at my CV, my students are number one in their papers, and I'm number two as main supervisor. So I'm very ethical on that. All right. So with that, let me start. Let me share the screen. Okay. Can you see the screen? Okay. Thank you. So we put in a slide mode. All right, that's the title for today's webinar, Writing and Publishing Papers in Index Journals. Initially, I thought I want to make it a very preliminary introductory session for people, and I kept that. I thought I will start from very beginning of how to write a paper so that it could be useful for students who are doing PhD have never written any papers, and also useful for those who have written few papers and they need some clues to improve the paper. So I have included that also. All right. So I hope this session will be beneficial for a quite range of people who have never written paper, who are writing paper now, and who have published few papers, but thinking of publishing in a better journal than the journal they have published before. Okay. Let me show you with, okay, I'll start with this. If you are writing a paper, you have to keep in mind that writing paper is not that easy. It's similar like you are planting a tree. So when you plant tree, you have to plan starting with the preparation of soil, fertilizing, watering, and all that, and then you plant the seed. Then it comes out. Then again you continue nursing, and finally
You get a tree and you try to get the kind of fruits that you want. So paper writing is there. You have to start slowly from the beginning. You start with an idea. You start with a problem in hand. When we look around and we see some kind of academic problem or problem that is affecting the industry, society, the people, then we'll start thinking of coming out some ideas, to solve that problem. That's where we start. So that's like you are starting harboring and looking at harvesting on the empty soil, and then finally when you finish up your paper, it's like you are getting the fruits. Okay, that's the first one I would like to say. It's not that something easy. It takes time, and you got to start with a very planned way of writing papers. And the second one on the right side, you see, that's very normal, the review process. When you submit a paper, your paper goes through strict, stringent review policy by good journals. Some of the journals, the acceptance rate is only 10%, meaning 100 papers submitted, only 10 papers get accepted and published. Commonly, we see about the acceptance rate is about 15 to 20%. So if your paper is like that, you throw on that and the people start hitting, and then you have to cross through all that hurdles. Okay. My first paper that I submitted to publish in a journal, it had I had to go through 5 steps of reviewing. First time they gave me suggestion, I did editing, I send them back, they send me back again with some more correction, and it continues. So I was feeling like I just want to stop, and I want to discontinue, and I don't want to publish in that journal. So the review process is very stringent and strict. You don't get demotivated. It is very common, and it's not something unexpected. It's expected. You submit a paper, it get rejected. You submit another journal, get rejected. You submit another journal, and you get it published. It's very common. One of my papers that I got published in Emerald, it took me 1.5 years to get it published. So if you're thinking of publishing in a good journal, even it takes up to that time, even 2 years to get it published. All right. So keep that in mind. It's like when you're planting a tree, it's not like you are planting it today and tomorrow you get the fruits. It's not like that. It takes time. But when you have the tree, what happens? Many people get benefited. You get the fruits. The branches of tree can be eaten by other, cows and all that animals. And birds and all that can have their nest there, and they get the shade from there. Okay, so a paper, when you write, it is like that. It's not simply you are just writing a paper and just leaving it like that. It is going to be there forever, and now it is online, and it's going to benefit a lot of people. So you have to keep that in mind. That's my humble beginning of this session. Okay, let me share a little of my achievement that so far I had. I have so far got about 4,200 citations in Google Scholar, 4,200. So about in 14 years of publication, I got 4,200, which is not bad. All right, and this is something extraordinary that Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala blessed me to achieve it. If you look at the bottom, this is ResearchGate, and my publication has been read by 500,000 people. 500,000 people, 508,000 people have read the papers that I have written together with my students. 500,000. 500,000 people so far have written my papers. So that's the milestone that I touched last month. And I think many academicians will dream to touch that milestone. Okay. And of course, it's a special blessing from Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. I don't claim I write very good papers. I never say that, but somehow people loves to read the paper that we write. Okay, so, and there's 500,000 people so far have read our papers in Google Scholar. Now, I am assuming now for this webinar, I'm assuming now that we have conducted a research, we have collected the data, analyzed the data, we have now got the findings with us. Now we'd like to start writing the paper. Okay, now it's time for us to write and publish. So that is the kind of, why the screen is gone missing. Okay, let me share it again. Okay, so I'm making the assumption, all right? So those of you are sitting with me, I'm assuming that you have identified and defined a research problem. You design your research, you designed your theoretical framework, you designed your questionnaire, you have distributed it, you have collected the data, you have analyzed it. Now you have all the findings in front of you. So that's the assumption I'm making. So now it's time for us to write and publish the paper. So now why we need to publish journal or conference articles? There are many there. Basically, we would like to share our ideas and expertise with others. Basically, we'd like to tell and sell our stories. Writing paper is basically just telling and selling stories. Okay, we have a story and we would like to tell it and we'd like to sell it. That's the right idea of writing a paper. We'd like to enhance our skills, and what is more importantly is our career advancement. If you're joining as a lecturer, we do not want to retire as a lecturer. Our lecturer would like to promote it as associate assistant professor, then associate professor, as a professor, even professor emeritus, all sort of promotion we like to see in our career. So if you're having a career as a lecturer, joining as a lecturer, and you are being there for 20, 30 years as a lecturer, definitely it's not going to be something farm enjoying, right? You'd like to see your career advancement, you'd like to see your progression in the salary and all that. For that, you need to publish papers. Almost every universities in the world now, one of the most important criteria for promotion is publication. Even though the focus is a lot on teaching, but publication is getting more importance now for promotion and all that. Unless if you are concentrating on the admin jobs in university, it could be different. But if you are normal academic like me, if you're looking for promotion, it is now completely, dependent on the publication. I mean, not completely. The more focus is on publication. And the last one, I put it here, basically giving back to the society. The kind of person we are now, right? Like Bapa Julkarnain or Ibu Ratna, or myself, we reached at the level of professors and all that. We did not reach it that easy, right? We had difficult time. We had to cross a lot of barriers, a lot of hurdles. We had to put a lot of hard work. And that makes us to come to this level, okay? But when we come to this level, it's not because of our own talent and hard work. A lot of people have contributed to us, a lot of people from the society. Beside our parents, beside our siblings in the family, beside the teachers in universities, schools, and colleges, there are many people from the society who has contributed to make us what we are now. So now we have reached a certain level. It is time for us to give it back to the society. You got to, contribute to the society, do something good for the society and people. So that can be done by writing a paper. When you write a paper, many people will read and get benefited. It's not only ordinary human beings, not only the academicians, would be also the industry. That's where the problem is rooted. All right, and also definitely strengthening your reputation. So now people will ask you, what is your H index? How many citations you have? This kind of question is very normal now. Some people even ask you, how many journals did you publish? And sort of questions were always there. So strengthening your reputation, just telling I'm a professor is not enough now. If I tell people, I'm a great professor, people will not simply just believe it. People will just go online and they type my name, they will get everything there. Okay, so there's nothing can be hidden now. So strengthening our reputation is very important for publication, right? To publish paper to strengthen our reputation. And that's what you say now. We have reached a status now, either publish or you get perished. If you do not wish to publish papers, then there's no way you are going to stay in the academic, as an academic anyway. So either you publish or you get perished. All right, now, high impact journals. How do you measure whether the journal is a high impact journal, right? Now in the whole world, we look at either the journal is ISI index or Scopus index or Web of Science, right? Some countries like Australia, they look at ERA, they don't look at Scopus. ERA is Excellence of Research in Australia. This is similar status as Scopus, all right? Also in Australia, they look at category of A, B, C, D category journal. They have way of categorizing journals, all right? So those basically are a way of looking at whether your paper is being published in a good journal or not. But again, we have to keep in mind, being an academician, you know that now journal, publishing paper, journal all become business. People who are controlling journals, they are billionaires. all right? Like Elsevier, definitely earning billions of dollars a year. But unfortunately, we are falling in the trap of that, business. And we are concentrating on this corpus because it is tied up with ranking of universities now. Okay. So if you do not have many Scopus items, many journals in the ISI index journals, then your university is not better ranked. Your university not getting in the better ranking. So we are falling in that trap. And somehow we have to carry on with that. I hope personally that sometime in the future, we can come out from that trap. And we concentrate on publishing journal in a peer-reviewed journal. As long as a journal is peer-reviewed, it should be enough. Meaning that once we submit a paper to a journal, that paper is reviewed by 2 expert academic. That is enough. But unfortunately, now we attach to Scopus indexing, ISI indexing, and Web of Science and all that. And many journals require to pay a lot of money, as high as $3,000 US. There are many journals also. Commonly, we pay like $200, $300 US and we get paper published. And there are many journals, non-paid journal, like MRLs. All journals are unpaid, right? You don't have to pay any money. It takes longer time. So since we have the pay shop publication, so we don't mind paying and getting our paper published. I said that's where the journal business comes in. So, but we have to keep in mind that a paper in a high impact journal does not necessarily equate with a high impact paper. Okay, so you're publishing a paper in a high impact journal, that's not the end. So the measure of whether you have high impact paper or not will come in with the number of citations you get or number of reads you get in the research gate, all right? So we said, therefore, it is essential to evaluate the impact of individual paper and take into account of where it was published and how well it has been cited and by whom, all right? So the first, we have to publish a paper in a good journal. And then secondly, we have to see whether the papers are being cited by people. So here, please take note that when you are publishing in a journal, please make sure the journal is open access journal. If the journal is not open access, then the citation of your paper will be limited. Not many people will read the paper because if they want to download the paper, they have to make payment to download the paper. So your citation chances get lesser. Okay, so the high impact paper, your paper, whether it's going to be high impact paper or not, is based on citations. Okay, so it doesn't matter whether it is a very high impact journal. Sometimes you may have a bit low impact journal, but you get open access and you get more cited because it's the quality paper, then that paper would be a high impact paper. Okay, now, so the benefits to the author of publishing the high profile journal is the anticipation that the article will have greater visibility and therefore more likely to be cited. The paper that I have published, the most cited papers are not really that great journal. Okay, I got a paper is cited about 550 researchers worldwide. It was published in a journal which is not Scopus indexed, and yet it is cited by 550 people worldwide. And those cited papers are published in ISI and Scopus journal. So that one we have to keep in mind. All right. That's how we also measure the high impact paper. We are in the academia, we look at citation, look at H index, we look at I-10 index, and we look at contribution of new knowledge. Citation, we do understand. H index, what does it mean? H index meaning basically, say for example, I have 5 papers cited more than 5 times, then H index would be 5. Say for example, I have published 50 papers. And out of 50 papers, I got 20 papers cited more than 20 times. Then H index is 20. Like for example, currently now, my H index is 25. Meaning I got 25 papers cited more than 25 times. That's what you call H index. And what is I-10 index? I-10 index meaning a paper cited more than 10 times. We call it I-10 index. So if you have 40 papers cited more than 10 times, then we said you've got 40 I-10 index, right? 40 I-10 index. And then also we look at the contribution of new knowledge to the area of research that you do. And when you look at paper, whether it is high impact paper or not, we do not look at only the academic area. Now we also look at whether it has impact in the industry. So you're looking at industry relevance. We're looking at practicability of the findings in the industry, and we're looking at also the usefulness. of the findings that we have in terms of developing new policy or revising policies and all that. So this we have to keep in mind while we are thinking of writing a paper, right? When we are having ideas and then we'd like to carry on research and publish a paper. So please keep that in mind. It has to be, it has to have relevance in the academia as well as in the industry. Currently, those papers we write and we see, most of the papers that not really have much application in the industry, and that's the criticism by the industry that academics, researchers like us, we are too much focused on academic and it does not have any application in the industry. And therefore, we have to keep that in mind to make sure that the papers we write, it does have some relevant and usefulness to the industry. All right, let us begin now. Huh? All right, so now we can actually write two different kind of paper. The first kind of paper would be concept paper, and that's what I will always suggest PhD students to start. The beginning paper, the starting paper should be the concept paper. What does it mean by concept paper? You have done a literature review and you have understood the research gap, the literature gap. And from there, you're developing a theoretical framework or conceptual framework. So based on that, you can already write a concept paper. It could be just a short paper, about 8 to 10 pages long. So what could be the content of this paper? We write an introduction, then we have literature review, then we have theoretical framework and hypothesis. After that, we have literature review, and then we have conclusion. We don't have any findings, results, and discussion in this paper. That's what we call concept paper. We are just writing the concept that we have developed in order to conduct a research. So these papers could be even a highly demanded paper if it is written properly, okay, concept paper. I have published, I think, more than 10 concept papers and in good journals. And there are journals which publish, actually, they demand more concept paper, original thinking, giving people idea of new research areas, you know, so that could be demanding very good papers that we can write. So if you have a PhD student or if you are a new academic and thinking of writing the first paper could be a concept paper. All right, I will share a few of my concept paper with Bapa Zulkarnain, possibly later through the email, and you can get it from him. I wanted to get it today, but unfortunately I didn't have enough time. I couldn't get it. All right, but I will share a few concept paper with Bapa Zulkarnain. And I think also Bapa Zulkarnain has published few concept paper before. I've seen that. Okay, so we can publish concept paper without conducting a research. You can have just literature review, literature revisit, and based on that, you can write a paper. That is concept paper. And this paper, even if you cannot publish in a journal, you can easily send to a conference. And you will see it is accepted, and you present the paper. And then you get feedback from people. And then you refine your research ideas, you continue doing research. Okay? So the concept paper. And then the second group of paper, which we call empirical paper, and this is the most common paper that you write after completing a research. So conventionally, the view is that first we derive a set of hypotheses, collect data, analyze data, then we have the results with us, and based on that, we write a paper. So today's session will be mostly comprised on elements of empirical paper. I have explained a bit of concept paper. So the rest discussion will be mostly on empirical papers. All right. Now, how should you write? We're starting, right? We are beginning now. So the primary criteria for high impact journal writing is the accuracy and clarity. Accuracy and clarity. These are the two important criteria for writing high impact journal paper, high impact or high impact journal article. Okay. So the first step for clarity is good organization. Good organization. When you organize our thinking, the paper, the structure of a paper, make sure it organize it in a good sequence and good flow. And there should be a standardized format of a journal article. Remember, every journal has their own formatting. So when we think of publishing in a journal, we have to go through the guidelines given by the journal and follow that format, okay, to publish papers. Different journal has different formatting, and we have to follow that. Okay. The second step of clarity is basically we are saying a journal article should be straightforward story of a predetermined problem. We always emphasize that before we carry on a research, we've got to define the research problem correctly, and then we take on research based on the problem. Okay, so we have to have a straightforward story. So we have a research problem identified and defined. and based on that, we carry on. And that's we say it is not novel with subplots. We should not have too many subplots in one story. When we watch movies, you can see at the beginning of the movie, the plot will be created. And based on that, you will be either deciding to continue or not to continue, right? Say paper written, as I said, it is basically telling and selling stories. So you have to have plot, but you may not have too many plots. So that will divert the attention of the reader, and the reader may be getting confused and may not continue to read papers. So you may have a few subplots, not too many subplots. So we say that it is not novel with subplots, flashbacks, literary illusions, all right? But a short story of a single narrative line. Short story of a single narrative line. You were just writing a paper, so keep it short. Just a simple story. If you have more stories, you can write more papers. You don't have to put all the story in one paper. All right? That's what does it mean. So when you watch movie, basically it's just based on one story, not too many stories. All right. So when you write a paper, it is also like that. All right. The audience. When you are writing the paper, you have to keep in mind of are you writing paper for whom? Who are the people going to read your paper? Okay. So as we say, that good writing is good teaching, because when you are writing a paper, people are going to read, and the audience will come from various level of the society. So they have to understand, because say for example, if I'm writing a paper in finance and you are marketing people, you are not going to read my paper. Okay. If I'm writing paper in finance and somebody coming from physics and chemistry, they are not going to read my paper. So when I'm writing paper, we have to keep in mind who are the audience. Okay. So we are saying that academic journals are published for specialized audiences. So different journals have different audiences. People with substantial knowledge and methodological expert, meaning people are going to read our paper. They have substantial knowledge and they are also methodological expert. So we have to write the paper in a way so that it is read by people in that area. Okay. So we say, however, articles should be written to make it comprehensible to the widest possible audience. That's what is very important. In research, there is a term, we call it parsimony, the principle of parsimony. What does it mean? It means that expressing complex thing in a simplest way. Expressing complex thing in a simplest way. So you are writing complex, complicated things in a simple way so that anybody read the paper can understand what I have written. Please always remember, why do we write the paper? Because you want people to read, understand, and learn. Now, if you are writing a paper in a way, people cannot understand and cannot absorb the knowledge that I would like to share, then the purpose of writing the paper is defeated. I fail to transfer the knowledge. I fail to transfer the knowledge. So the writing style got to be, it has to be in a way that many people, anybody read the paper, can understand what I have written. There are many papers even I read at my level now. I don't really understand anything, what the writer trying to mean, So I have difficulty understanding. I have to read 3-4 times to understand what the author tried to mean. I don't think we should be writing that kind of paper. We should be writing in a way so that everybody can understand and get what we want them to get from the paper. So keep the audience in mind. Telling a good story, right? I always keep that. Whenever I talk about publishing papers, I always keep that in mind. Telling a good story. Because we are publishing a paper based on a story, right? Based on a story, based on a research problem. Now I have to tell the story to the people. So we got to be a great storyteller. When you are tired and you are bored of doing something, but if you get a storybook in front of you, you will read. Why? Because you enjoy reading the stories. So our paper got to be also written in a way like you are writing a story so that people see the plots, starting with the plot and it continues with that story. And there is an end of the story. So there is a research problem where we begin writing the paper at the beginning. At the end of the paper, there must be a solution. That's what I'm saying, telling a good story. All right. So research problem is being highlighted at the beginning. At the end, if the reader see the solution, there will feel, wow, there's something very good. I got some takeaways from this paper. Okay. Try to make our journalist article a compelling story, right? So we got to address interesting problem of phenomena, and then we use some theories to explain the phenomena that we have identified. Okay, so we have advanced hypotheses, develop methods, and we test them, provided, and all that. No? So all that come in with subsequent what you call with logical sequence and good flow. So that's how we tell the stories. Like you are watching movie, the plots are arranged one by one, one after another. So paper has to be arranged in a way. So paper, the story will be continuing with subplots one after another, and people will be reading and feeling what is after this, what is after this. That's how we watch a movie. So when you write a paper, if you can have that kind of flow, people will love to read your paper. And they read one paper that you've written, you will find more paper. They will look for more papers that you have written. They want to read more paper that you've written. That's how you increase the citation of papers and visibility, international visibility of your publications. So in a summary, I'm saying that our article should have a story, good storyline, all right, that can be remembered by people, and they have some take-home messages. Once I finish reading the paper, I know what I have learned. I know what I have got from this paper. All right, so this is takeaway. All right, so we should provide clear answer to the two questions. What has the paper told me that I did not know before? Meaning that a reader, when he is reading the paper, he must have got something new. So in my paper, I should have something new than a reader is going to get. And our second question is, why is this news important? So now he got something new, but is it important to him? So while we are writing paper, we have to prove that this message is important. The problem I have identified and defined, it is important, it's affecting the people, affecting the society, affecting the industry. Now, come on, come and see what I have got. So this is what I have got, something very new. And this is what is very important. So that's how it should be writing a paper, right? We should be writing a paper. As I said earlier, that we should be avoiding too many subplots. We may wish to tell subsidiary stories in addition to main plot, because our data set may permit us to address many points. All right, but we should not have many. As I said, that if you have too many subplots, you can have many different papers. Do not put all stories in one paper. For example, from one research, easily we can publish 3-4 papers. You don't have to put everything in one paper. All right, that's what you call multiplication of papers. From one research, you publish 3-4 papers. I have one PhD student, 2 PhD students. They publish more than 15 papers from their PhD work, more than 15, more than 15. And currently another student going to defend his final PhD viva voce, and he has already published 19 papers from his PhD thesis. All right. So every subplot, you can write one paper. You don't have to put all subplots in one story, right? So you can have many different papers. All right. I think it's enough for this slide. Let me continue to the next slide. Now we have to create an outline of a paper. So before you begin writing, we got to create an outline of a paper, especially with introduction and result section, right? So what are the points critical to the introduction? Okay, we keep that in mind. What is the logic that we are building our research? The method is usually straightforward with the schema provided. So we need to have some schema, right? So outline is very important. We need to consider the order of presentation. So whether we'd like to present just a narrative, or would like to present with tables and figures and text and all that. So I'll go through that slowly. All right. This is a hourglass model of a paper content that we arrange. This guy has proposed that introduction research problems should be discussed a bit wider in a comprehensive way, and then methods and result could be lesser, very specific. And then your discussion and conclusion should be more. Okay, so that's what we are looking at. So introduction, you are highlighting your plots, the problem, and at the end you are having a discussion and conclusion. You are giving a solution. Okay, so when you read papers, most of the time, this is the weakest part of most of the researchers and authors. We see they basically just present the results and they do not discuss. All right, lack of interpretation, lack of connectivity with the previous research and all that. Okay, so those all will come in discussion and conclusion. So a reader actually will read more on introduction, where they want to find out the plot, the research problem you have identified. And the reader would like to see more on the discussion. He wants to see what are the new things we have come out, what are the methodology methodological contribution or theoretical contribution, new knowledge contribution, practical contribution, and all that. And finally, the author would like to see some kind of conclusion, take home away message, some messages that he can take it away and he can use it for writing the next papers. Now, a good selection of a good title. This is very important. Whether you want to read a paper or not, it depends on the title itself. And in marketing, we say first impression is the last impression. Sometimes you may just look at the title of the paper and you may continue to read and you may just say, no, this is not something that I'm going to read. So a paper is usually about 15 words long, 15 words long. Now, many universities have a standard procedure. PhD title cannot be more than 50 words. That's in my university also now. So 50 words. So there's many journals, established journals will also have that limit of words, not more than 15 words on the title. The title got to be sketchy, something interesting, something attractive. Looking at the title itself, people will feel like, wow, this is something very good. I would like to read that. It's like you go to buy fruits and you look at the fruit's color, you get little of smell, wow, this is something good. I want to buy. It must be very good, So that's how we are looking at. It's like, when you are young, you are looking at a girl or you're looking at a boy, or the boy is handsome, or this girl is beautiful. That's how you get attracted. The paper is like that. The paper title, the beauty of paper actually is on the title. By looking at the title itself, people will feel attracted and reading the paper. So as I said, the title may come in many different flavors, all right? But most of the time we have independent and dependent connected or moderating connected, but that is for the thesis. But for paper, the title could be something else, Could be sketchy, could be interesting, could be funny, all right? Could be interesting. So people feel like, oh, there's something that I want to know. For example, like I'm writing a paper now, Teaching or Cheating. That's the title of the paper. Teaching or cheating, a question mark. So if you look at it, the paper is basically effectiveness of teaching or teaching effectiveness. But if you look at teaching, the kind of alphabet that makes it teaching, with same alphabet, it becomes teaching. Cheating, Cheating and teaching can be with the same alphabet. And surprisingly, teacher and cheater, same alphabet. And more surprisingly, teach and cheat, same alphabets. So with that idea, I'm writing a paper, teaching or cheating. So when we are in a classroom, we can do either one. Either we are cheating or we are teaching. All right. So I'm writing a paper. So I am very hopeful that when I publish this paper, anybody look at the title, they will feel interested. Oh, I should read this paper, be an academic, because the title is interesting. Feel like, hey, what is this? Teaching and teaching. So that's what it has to be. The title got to be interesting, something very sketchy, okay? Now, let us now move on. Abstract. How do you write the abstract? When should you write the abstract? Let me ask you that question first. I'm not going to ask you to answer now. I'm going to give you the answer. The abstract should be the last piece of work. You have to finish writing the whole paper. And only after that, you will write the abstract. We don't write abstract first. But unfortunately, most of the conferences will ask us to submit the abstract first. That's something I find very funny because I have not done my research, I have not written my paper, and they want me to submit the abstract. But unfortunately, it is that, and we have to write it. So possibly it's all right for conference purpose, we can submit an abstract, the initial abstract. But once we have written the paper written the paper, then we have to come back and rewrite the abstract, okay? So for submission purpose, we can write the abstract, but later we have to write the real abstract. So abstract is the last piece of work after completion of writing the whole paper. So I'm saying that if the title does not bore the readers, meaning that if the reader looking at the title, he feels something interesting, I would like to read the paper. So he will now go to abstract. The first part he is going to read is abstract. Now, if you are writing a good abstract, then you have a big chance. I would say big chance to entice them into the article. After reading the article, after reading the abstract, most of us, we read the abstract first. And after reading the abstract, we will decide whether to continue reading the paper or we do not continue reading the paper. Okay, so abstract is a masterpiece of the paper. All right, but it has different guidelines from different journals. Most of the time, journals will ask you to write within 120 words. Some journal will give you up to 250 words. I did not see any journal allow you to write more than 250 words. The standard very good journal. Okay, it's usually 120 to 250 words. Within that, you have to write the abstract. When I started writing paper, that was the most difficult, challenging part for me. When I write journal, it becomes too long. I feel so many things are important, I should write. But as we write few more papers, we learn the art of writing abstract, where you know exactly what are the things to be added in the abstract. Not everything in the abstract, okay? All right, so we have to learn. We have to learn to eliminate unnecessary thing, and then we keep it the striking points in the abstract. Okay. We should state the research problem, right? The problem or issue of interest, that's at the beginning of the abstract. And many times we start with the main objectives of this paper. I'm going to give you some example of how abstract is written, okay? As I say in the red marks, you can see that basically the abstract often appears to be afterthought, right? Rather than the one with the most critical parts of the paper. And I put a points also there, basically, sorry, let me rearrange what is the problem now. Okay. The sidebar is disturbing me. Okay, please keep in mind also one point. In the abstract, there should not be any citation. There should not be any citation in the abstract. It has to be all your own words. All your own words. No citation. This is an example of an abstract of the paper that I have published. Okay, and you can see how short it is. So we have the title, we have abstract, and beneath we have keywords. This is normal structure for a journal. We have to have the abstract, and then at the beneath you have to have keywords. Usually they will ask you to put 5 keywords. So if you have 5 independent variable of 5, you put them 5. If you're writing concept paper, then also the most important concepts or terms that will put it under the keywords. Okay, so this is an example of how an abstract could be written. You can see I have started straight with the purpose of this research was to investigate, the influence of this. So straight with the objectives and research problem, and continue with how we collected data, and then we just concluded what did you find out. So very simple, and we call it KISS, KISS, keep in short and sweet. Okay, or keep in short and sweet. That's what we call it. Okay, so very small, in a very compressed manner, very concise, very precise. This is an example of abstract. Let me show you another example of abstract. This is a standard format of MRL publications. All MRL journals have this one. They call it they call it. I'm sorry, there is a term for it. Guided abstract. Okay, guided abstract. So they have purpose, design, methodology, approach, findings, limitation, implication, practical implication, originality, value. That's the way they want you to write. So meaning that when we decide after completion of writing a paper, then again we have to search for appropriate journal, and then we follow the guidelines given by journal. The way they want you to write, we have to write that way. All right. So I have given you 2 different examples of how an abstract can be written. Now, I'm going to share this slide with Bapa Zulkarnain. So those of you attending from University's Medan area, you can get the slide from Bapa. And those of you attending from outside world, I will get the recording from Bapa Zulkarnain, and then I will put it in my YouTube channel. All right. Those of you do not know, I have my own YouTube channel on research methodology. Okay. My channel name is Platform for Research and Development. Platform for Research and Development. I think I have already 4,000 plus subscribers there. I only post the research methodology related videos there. My webinar videos all are there. So those of you do not know, possibly you can subscribe my YouTube channel and listen to many of the webinars available there. Platform for Research and Development. So this video, if Bapa Zulkarnain allows me, I will get a video and then I will upload it there. So those of you joining from Nigeria, Bangladesh, Malaysia, and other parts of the world, you can watch it there in my YouTube channel. All right, so I have given you, and when I put the video in my YouTube channel, at the below of YouTube channel, I will put this PowerPoint slide also available for you. So those of you who are coming from outside Indonesia, you will get the slide from my YouTube channel. It's going to be there. Just beneath of the video, I will upload these slides for you, okay? So I've given you 2 examples of abstract, how abstract can be written. Let me proceed now with the first section of paper, introduction of the paper. Prof. Zulkarnain, is that okay? I go a bit detail and I take about 1 hour plus, 1 hour, 15 minutes. Is that okay with you? You have to unmute microphone, Prof.
Yeah, 1 hour I think is okay.
Continue more than 1 hour is okay, right? All right, thank you. So
I thought since I'm doing a webinar for PhD students and young staff, so I do a comprehensive view of how to write a paper, full paper writing. So it's like hands-on writing. If I had a physical session, it's a bit different. I could have given you the task and finish off writing a paper with you, but this is not physical virtual, so I have to do it a different way. So how should you write introduction? So we say the first task of an article is to introduce the background and nature of the problem being investigated. You know what I suggest always, if you're a PhD student, write the introduction of the paper from the research problem. That's where the problem is identified and your sub-problems are there. Plots and subplots are there. So each subplot, you write a paper. So introduction should motivate the paper, appropriately citing prior contribution, right? So you are citing some key papers in the introduction, making it interesting for people so that people feel motivated and they feel like going further and reading more, right? So as I said, the first one was title. If the title is interesting, people move on to read your abstract. If the abstract is very good, they feel like the paper is good, they continue. So next one would be introduction. So introduction would be something got to be also very good piece of work. So a good article, actually, every parts of article got to be excellent. That's why you make it an impact factor paper, right? An impact journal paper, and you publish in an impact journal. So first thing we said that you need to do is to review your introduction. The introduction has to be effective enough to keep the reader focused in the content, okay? Now, one needs to maintain the length of introduction. Introduction cannot be too lengthy. We see PhD students sometimes it's 15 pages. We'll ask them to know, you reduce it to 4 or 5 pages. In the journal, how long your introduction can be? Possibly just half a page or 1 page, not more than that, okay? Within that, you introduce your story. Introducing your story. Now, we should take time and space necessary to lead them to the formal and theoretical statement of the problem step by step. So you are now step by step writing and introducing your problem and subplots. Okay, now the question is, do you have to describe your research objective and research questions here? In a research paper, we do not really write 2-3 research questions, right? We don't. So you got to highlight our research problem here. And that will actually can be translated into research questions and all that later in terms of hypothesis and all that. So not necessary that you need to have research questions here or research objectives here. You can have overall objectives of the paper or just one specific research question, not few research questions. Okay, not many research questions. Now this is an example of how an introduction can be written. So I'm starting now. Let me see how can I explain. Say, for example, you are writing an introduction. You say, individuals differ radically from one another in the degree to which they are willing and able to express the emotion. And then my continuous sentence, indeed, the most popular view is that such emotional expressiveness is central differences between men and women. But the research evidence is mixed. Okay, so I'm creating interest for people. And then I'm continuing. There is even some evidence that men may actually, so I'm now even, creating more interest for people to go ahead and read. So in this study, finally, I'm saying, we recorded the emotional reaction of both men and women to film and continue so on, right? So this is how an interesting introduction can be written. You can see there is a good flow and there is a logical sequence. So I am going one by one. So I'm bringing the reader from one sentence to another sentence and making it relevant, related to each other, coherent manner, so people feel like compelling to read the introduction that I have written. As I said, the introduction is a masterpiece. So after the title, they read the abstract. After they go to the introduction. If they like the introduction, they'll continue. If they don't like the introduction, a lot of grammatical errors, a lot of English language errors, they will just leave the paper. They say, this is stupid, this is rubbish paper, we shouldn't be continuing. So introduction got to be like that. There's a good flow, and you are creating the plot of your story, okay? Now, once the introduction is completed, we proceed to literature review, all right? So in literature review, basically, as we see, most of us, we just try to summarize the previous work that we have read, which is not right. We got to summarize, but again, we got to evaluate and highlight the important findings and all that, okay? I will have some more slides, so let me leave this slide here. What should we include? Basically, all key theories should be there. The current knowledge should be demonstrated. Actually, 40% of citations should be latest 5 years papers. Huh? Please keep in mind, when you are writing a paper, 40% of our citation should be based on last 5 years, latest 5 years. So that makes it, you are demonstrating the current knowledge of the area. Use clear referencing for the leader to find originally cited paper, meaning that you have to follow the APA now, follow APA style of referencing so that anybody would like to read the original paper, they can read the paper, and you have to cite. A critical literature review will have all that, right? You provide up-to-date understanding, identify key research methods, then you assist in formulating research topics, question directions, provide a basis of subsequent research. All that you will have in the critical literature review. There's some more questions here I have put. This I'm not going to go through. I will read it, leave it for your own reading. All right. This is how we organize. If you are writing a paper based on an empirical research, then your literature should start with dependent variable, because that is the central theme. That is the research problem actually. And then followed by independent variable, those are the issues. So your dependent variable is the plot, independent variables are the subplots, or your dependent variable is the theme, and independent variable are the issues, all right? And followed by moderating, mediating, and control variables. And finally, you have a summary at the end of the literature, okay, review. In the literature review, you have to make your voice very clear, right? You cannot be just summarizing people's work and leave it there. You have to have your own inferences, your own view, your own perspective. Thesis and paper are different. In paper, it is your work and you are writing. Thesis is like you are summarizing and you are putting it, no pronouns and all that. Even paper, we try to avoid I and we, but still our voice should be very clear. What I feel, what I think, what I propose, what I recommend, those sort of things got to be very clear in a paper, not only what people have done. Now, how do you outline literature review? As there are 4 different approaches to writing literature review. One, we call it chronological. One we call it thematic, one we call methodological, and one we call theoretical. So let me explain a bit on it. So when we organize the content of literature review, we should actually embed more than one. I personally recommend you should start with thematic, based on theme. And after that, you follow with theoretical or chronological. Chronological is you are citing papers starting from say, for example, 1990 and up to 2020, that is chronological. So after thematic, you will have chronological. And certain paper, you may have to highlight the theoretical contribution. So in the thematic, you will have theoretical reference and citation. Or some paper, you are contributing on the methodology. So in the thematic, under the thematic, you may have methodological write-up there, okay? So when you are organizing literature review write-up in a journal paper, you can follow thematic, and then followed by you embed it with chronological and theoretical, or chronological and methodological. Okay, so this could be also a very good approach, and I personally like this one. So there are, even the earlier one that I have shown you, that you can start with dependent variable, followed by independent variable, followed by mediating variable. There's also thematic, right? Your theme is dependent variable, and then sub-theme is independent variable, sub-theme is moderating variable. It is also going on thematic. So while you are going thematic, the presentation of thematic should be chronological. starting from 1980, 1990 until 2020. So that is chronological. Okay. And you can have under thematic, you can have theoretical, or you can have methodological. So combination of any of this approach should be very good. Okay. So while you are writing the content of literature review, keep in mind of the 4 different approaches of writing out, right? But we always recommend you should be combining few, all right? So combining few. So you may start with thematic, but you have to still keep it the chronological always, and you can add on one more, theoretical or methodological. That will make your theoretical literature review write-up a very good literature review. Okay. This is an example I show in some of my webinars also. A poor write-up of literature review. You can see it started with one citation followed by next citation followed by next citation. What is his own inferences there? So you are just getting from people and putting it one after one. This is not a good literature review. Okay, that's what you do not expect. This is an acceptable literature review. You can see that the writer has started in his own. Is saying numerous studies found that job stress influence employee job satisfaction and all that. And then he has been a citation and is now having his own inferences at the end of it. This is something acceptable. And this is something very good one. You can see in advocating a competency approach, firstly, it is necessary to have and all that. So you are writing on your own, you know, and then after that, you are backing up with citation of people. So if you look at the whole paper, there's only one citation. So you got your ideas coming and you are backing up with other citation, all right? As we'll have look at the earlier one, here you start with your own and backing up with citation. Then you are writing your own and backing up with citation, or you are having citation backing up, you know, and giving your own expression and inferences after doing that, okay? And here, this is something we said that very poor. You are just summarizing one after another. You've got your views and perspective and feelings being expressed here. Okay, this is acceptable one. This is, I said, this is even more acceptable. All right, so we started with abstract, then we have introduction, then the next is literature review. We have done that, okay? Now, after literature review, we will have next section, subsection of the paper is description of the methods. This section would be small, could be just a half a page long, or maximum one page long. So we have to describe the sample population, the sampling method, data collection method, data analysis techniques. This all got to be elaborated. It doesn't take time. Sampling population, sampling method, and all the data collection method can be written in simple 4 or 5 lines, you know, and the techniques that is used, also few lines you can write up there. Description of variable assessed and how they are measured. So if you have variables, theoretical framework, we got to describe those variables, and you have to explain basically here, how did we measure? If you use questionnaire, survey questionnaire, then you have to explain how did you measure, how many items we had, Likert scale or whatever, you know, you have to explain a bit. And then you can have half page or 1 page long discussion on theoretical framework and hypothesis. So meaning that the description of method altogether could be 2 pages long, 2 pages long. So this is how it is, right? So you, based on your literature review, we have already extracted the variable. Now we are plotting it in a framework. We call it theoretical framework. And from the theoretical framework, we construct hypothesis. So this all going with the logical sequence and going with a very good flow, okay? So after that, what will happen is, so we continue with result section. We present the findings. We'll have discussion sections. We'll have conclusion and recommendation sections, and finally, we'll revise and edit for submission. Okay, so we'll start with introduction. We have literature review, we have methodology, and followed by very structured result and finding section, discussion sections, and then we have conclusion and recommendations. And once that is done, then we consider to revise and edit it. I will always, I always suggest, and I find it very useful. Once we have written the paper, we can share with our colleagues, at least two colleagues. Give it to them. Ask them, can you please read through and give me some, your feedback? How do you feel? Whether the paper is well written or not? And you'll be surprised to see, that your colleagues will be finding many areas where actually you have not written it properly. And based on those feedback, you can improve the paper. So considering of revision and editing is very important. Even yourself, once we have finished written, you got to review a few times and you will find a lot of rooms for improvement. Some silly errors would be always there. Okay, some careless errors should be always there. So we have to do our own revision and editing, and we can always pass it to our colleagues and request them to edit and help us improving the papers. All right. Now, as I said earlier, paper always we call it keep it short and sweet. For Muslims, basically the Sunnah. Our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he never spoke too much, right? He used to speak less, but with everything he used to say was very meaningful, right? Keep it short and sweet. So that's what we want. So starting from abstract, following up, one chapter, another abstract, as it follows on, the good flow and logical sequence are there, but we have to always keep in mind that we should not be the way we talk. We talk a lot, but when we write, that the way we talk, we cannot write everything. But there are people who can write a lot. But we have to keep in mind that everything that we do in research are not important for others to know. So we have to keep in mind what people should know and what they are looking forward to read and get it from a paper. All right. So you have to keep it short and sweet. Do not paralyze the reader with result section. You know what happens when we collect the data, and those of us we know statistics, SPSS, PLS, data, whatever, even qualitative like NVivo, Atlas T. We use the software, you run as many we can. You can have many findings there. We should not be bombarding people with too many findings and results in one paper. Save it for other papers. Okay, so because you have only one research problem, based on that, you focus on writing the result section. Do not give too many. You can, as I said, from one research, you can easily publish 3-4 papers. Do not put everything in one paper and finish it off. Okay, so if you are giving too much result without interpretation and explanation and connecting it with previous findings and relating it to the industry, people won't find it interesting. It will bore them and they will stop reading the paper. All right. So as I said earlier, you are telling the story. You are telling the story. So tell the story and sell the story. That's the idea. So please do not. The normal way of presenting for authors is giving tables after tables. No interpretation, no discussion. That is wrong. We can give table, but there must be interpretation of every value that we put in the table. Almost those are relevant values, should be interpreted. So we said that in short, some authors choose to bring inferential statistics to the forefront and then relegate the descriptive statistics, all right, and all that. But the better strategy for author is not that. Rather, you should be making up a story out of the descriptive statistics. So you start with descriptive statistics. Who are your sample? Okay, the education background and all that, the special characteristics of whom you collected the data. Then only you start talking about how independent is affecting dependent and followed by evidence and all that. And after that, you have to connect with the prior research conducted. So the literature review, you have to connect back to the literature. And then you have to relate it with the problem where it is rooted, the industry. That makes it a good section on results and findings. Okay. Let me move to the next area. This is something very important. Be aware of the cards of knowledge. You know what happens when you write a paper, because we have done a research, we have read many papers, we have written good literature review, we have somehow got control over the area, we know a lot now. So we have the mentality of showing off in the paper. So that's what we call it, the cards of knowledge. It's being there with many people, okay? So we have to always remember that I have a predefined audience, and I know whom the paper are written, and who are the people going to read my paper. So my standard of English, the way I write, the standard of expressing my ideas, got to be in a way so that the audience can read and understand me. All right, that is what is important. Unfortunately, as I said earlier, also to this presentation, many papers we read, even my level, I read many papers 3-4 times, even I don't really understand what the writer wanted to write, what the writer wanted to transfer to us. I cannot get any takeaways, take home away sort of things from a paper. So this is something very, very important. All right, this is something very important. So I said that at the end, I said the best cure for the course of knowledge is to get several people to read the paper. Okay, so that's what I have already earlier recommended, that once you finish writing the paper, you can pass it to your colleagues or friends to go through and give you some feedback on how do they feel, whether they understand there's something good in the paper, whether they understand what I tried to say, whether they understand the standard of English language that I have used to write this paper. Okay, so be careful on that, the course of knowledge. You should not be writing a paper in a way to show off that I'm an expert, you know. We may use statistics, like Bapa Zulkarnain is expert in statistics. If we put too much of statistics inside the paper, how many people actually understand statistics? Very few, you know. When you go to the PhD final defense, I see many examiners, external internal examiners, do not talk about chapter 4 anything. Why? Because they do not know about spaces, they do not know about PLS. I think Bapa Zulkarnain knows it very well. They do not know its data, so they just skip chapter 4. They talk too much on chapter 1. Research problem, because they have to, because they do not know about the software and the data analysis. They're very weak in that part. But my brothers and sisters, your paper, the main part of paper is your results, findings. Your research introduction, your literature review are mostly you have taken from people. They are not your own ideas. A bit, but your findings, your results are completely yours. So the one you write at the discussion chapter, the recommendation, you know, for the stakeholders, all are your own ideas. So those are the things should be written in a way like people can feel you, they can understand you. So do not bombard a paper with too much of statistics. Rather, we should try to use less statistics. We can tell them these are the statistical method we use, but we don't have to tell them the detail of all statistical things. If we do that, then people may just stop reading the paper because they'll feel, I don't understand. This is not my cup of coffee. It's not my cup of coffee. It's not for me. As I read many finance paper, you know, those research area I have not been exposed and I have not explored. Many finance paper I read, I do not understand anything at all. Too much of methodological and statistical econometrics modeling, so much of focus given, it defeats the purpose of writing paper because I don't understand. So what is the purpose of writing a paper if somebody from the same area even doesn't understand? All right. So this is what we call curse of knowledge. Curse of knowledge. We have the knowledge, but it is a curse because I failed to transfer the knowledge I have. The purpose of gaining knowledge is to transfer the knowledge. If I fail to do that, it becomes the curse of knowledge. All right. Now, publishing journal. Which journal should you submit to? This is a $1 million question. Which journal? I think now the focus of all universities is Scopus Index minimum, and then Web of Science and ISI Index. Okay, but for me, at the beginning, when you write a paper, you cannot straightforward publish in Scopus Index journal. May not be. Even I was not able to. I personally advocate and recommend that our first paper could be a concept paper and we submit to a conference. We present it in a conference and you will see 5 to 10 people will be commenting on our paper. Then I will have feeling of how good am I in writing the paper. Don't get demotivated, frustrated of getting people comments and all those. Don't. At the beginning, you know, the art of writing, there is an art of everything. There's an art of everything. All right. So the art of writing is not that easy. It takes time to learn, you know. So as you write the first paper, you may get a lot of frustrating, demotivating comments. Don't get demotivated. Don't get frustrated. Continue write the second paper. Submit in a conference. And then you will see the comments are much better than the first paper. Okay. When you write the third paper, write it for a peer-reviewed journal. It may not be Scopus Index, but it's index in Google Scholar, index in EBSCOhost, ProQuest. So those EconLead, those are good indexing. Those are good indexing. So first few papers you can publish in the other index journal, you know, at least peer-reviewed. It must be peer-reviewed, all right? So after that, you can write a paper to submit to Scopus Index Journal and then followed by ISI Index Journal. So that should be the flow, all right? So which journal should you choose? We know how to find, right? In marketing, we can search marketing journals, and there are many databases. Even you can go to your university library, the librarian can help you to find the appropriate journal for you, which area you like to publish, okay? This is a common thing that reviewers that look at your paper, like Benos, Kevin, and John, 2003. They have basically summarized what reviewers actually look at the paper. So if you are writing a paper, these are the things they look at. Quality of the paper. Okay, checking that no mistakes in procedure and logic have been made. Number two, the results presented support the conclusion drawn. No errors in citation to previous work have been made. All human protocols conducted follow proper review and approval by appropriate institutional review committee. And very importantly, the work is original and sufficient. So this is what Benes et al. 2003 have summarized, that most of the reviewers of journals will be looking at minimum, the primary things in the paper are like this. I have put 5 points there, which are very important. I put the same on the right side. You can see the paper will go through the review stage, and it has to go through all those hurdles before your paper is published. And I say the acceptance rate of many journals are only 10% to 15%. Okay, even in the peer-reviewed journal, about 20 to 25%. Please be aware of predatory journals, right? Predatory journals. You just pay and they publish. You will receive many emails. They will tell you, we publish in 3 days. You send a paper today, and after the next day they accept, and next day you make the payment, and after 3 days, 7 days, they publish the paper. Those are blacklisted journals. We call it predatory journals. If you are publishing a paper in those journals, those papers are going to be in the dustbin. Better to throw that paper in the dustbin rather than publishing in those journals. Be careful. Be careful. All right. So when you are writing a paper, keep in mind also what the reviewers want to see in a paper. All right. So I have summarized in a very simple slides here for you. Now this is from Lighthouse 2013, the basis for high impact publication. All right. They have summarized it this way. They say, select your journal carefully, make sure that it's coming from the same discipline. Be careful to follow the instructions for authors. Any journal that would like to submit a paper, make sure you read carefully the instructions for author given in every journal. Okay, follow the instructions. Be focused. Prepare one figure that shows or illustrates the main findings. Explain new findings in the abstract and discussion in the conclusion, right? Delete any irrelevant results or those that are not explained. As I said, the paper has to be concise. Keep it short and sweet, right? Distinguish clearly between the results of your study and the previous studies. That's what I said in the discussion. You will always connect it with the previous researches. Include a good dose of education dissemination. That's coming very important, right? Your own explanation, interpretation of the findings of your research. So your own dose. So that is the take home away message. Anybody read the paper, that's the message they will take from your paper, and they will put in their paper and thesis and cite you there. Okay, read your articles at least 5 times before submitting. I'm not saying that, this is not what I'm saying. This is from List Post, right? List Post. They're suggesting that you should be reading, yourself should be reading 5 times of a paper before you submit to a journal. So I am recommending that you should be reading 5 times, and then also pass it to your colleagues, at least 2 colleagues, and ask them to read and give you some feedbacks. Okay. Make sure the abstract, the manuscript is written in a good English. Avoid all those normal mistakes that we have. And I'm going to recommend 2 software for you to improve the paper quality. Okay. All right. This is another checklist, could be also important. Have a specific purpose in mind, know your target. I have talked about it. Develop an outline, we talked about it. Stop your reader in these tracks of with different titles. Start your article with most important information. Keep jargon to a minimum, and then make the article warm and personal. Okay. Some more the guidelines are there. Keep sentences short and simple. I have talked about it and all that. Now, once you have completed the paper, I would like to recommend you to subscribe to software which are very popular now. One is Grammarly. The Grammarly will help you to what we call proofread your paper. It helps you to proofread your paper. All grammatical English language errors can be corrected using Grammarly. And the second one is called Quillboard. Quillboard, I think Quillboard software. This one will help you to paraphrase. Once you run it in the Turnitin and you see a high rate of plagiarism, the Quillboard will help you to paraphrase, to rephrase your sentences and write up. So these two softwares are very useful, Grammarly and Quillboard. Okay, so you should be subscribing it. If you're in Malaysia, you can easily buy it from Shopee, only 10 ringgit or 5 ringgit, very cheap. I think from Indonesia also you can buy it from Shopee because you use the email address, and if you pay using international credit card, you can pay it also from Indonesia. And lastly, we have to be aware of plagiarism. This is something very dangerous. Let me give you 2 examples. There was a case at UNIMAP. There was a case at UNIMAP in my university. One of the PhD student, he copied a paper, full paper, and give it to his supervisor. And supervisor read the paper and he thought it's a very good paper. It's all right, you go ahead and submit. And that student put the supervisor name, who is a professor, as number 2, student number 1. No, supervisor number 1. He put supervisor number 1. Then his name number 2, co-supervisor number 3, another 2 PhD student as 4 and 5. And published the paper in his Scopus Index journal. You know what happened? After 3 months, the original paper author detected that his paper is being copied and published. And he lodged complaint to Scopus. And Scopus did an investigation and they found the truth. So now Scopus asked this PhD student of UNIMAP, how would you like to reconcile? So the original author demanded $5,000 to settle it. He said, 5,000, give me 5,000 US dollar. I will not make knowledge. You can withdraw the paper. If you do not pay, then my complaint stands and I will leave it to Scopus to decide the punishment. So this guy, he took it lightly and he did not pay the money or negotiate and settle it. And then the punishment came from Scopus. You know what was the punishment? The main author cannot publish any papers in next 10 years. The main author, who is the supervisor, professor, and he is innocent. He did not know that this paper is copied. So he became the main culprit. And he got 10 years punishment. He cannot publish any paper in his Scopus Index journal. Second author and other authors got 5 years. 5 years, they cannot publish any paper in his Scopus Index journal. So please remember that if you're copying from somebody and publishing that, punishment could be huge. All right. Even one of my paper, the second example, one of my paper, I published in one of the journals in India. And after 6 months, someone has published the same paper, same title with his name. And then from UITM, Shah Alam, a lecturer has sent me an email. Which is which? Which one is correct? You can imagine now, after receiving the email, the staff from that university sent me both papers. I was shocked because I know it is my paper. I did not copy. So now I have to prove that it is my paper, So finally, I managed to look at the date of publication. So my paper was published 6 months before. And the guy who published is after 6 months I published. So I replied to the email. I said, look at the publication date. Who published first? It's my paper. I published first. And this guy has copied. All right. Then what I did, I wrote an email I found out that guy who copied my paper, he was connected to a university in Oman. I think many of you know Sultan Al Qaboos. It's a good university. And he was there teaching. He copied my paper. So I wrote an email to him, CC to his dean and the vice chancellor. All right. So then he just came back to me, apologizing and all that. So I'm not the kind of guy. I didn't want to get any money from him. So basically, I told him this is something totally wrong, unethical. And you better write to the journal where you publish the paper. Tell them that you have copied the paper and you withdraw the paper. Okay. So because his dean and vice chancellor was there, his job was on stake. So he withdrew the paper from the journal. So copying papers, full papers and publishing some is a serious offense, and the punishment could be severe. All right. So be careful on that. And most of the journals, when you publish the paper, they will check the plagiarism in Turnitin and all that. So you do it first. Before you publish, send the paper for publication, please check the Turnitin plagiarism rate, and then only you send it the paper for publication. Since this is an, as I said at the beginning, introductory session on writing and publishing paper, so I will end it here, Bapak Zulkarnain, for today. And possibly if we have opportunities to webinar, I can go more deeper and advanced level authors. All right. So for today, I would like to basically end my presentation here, and that's how we feel, right? Once you get your good paper published, that's how we feel. Now I'll pass the session to Bapak Zulkarnain. Prof. Zulkarnain, the session is with you now. You have to unmute your microphone, Prof.
Okay, thank you very much, Prof. Aminul. I think we have already gotten a lot of information, a lot of knowledge, a lot of experiences that will help us to prepare articles, how to access to the journals. And however, I think we still have a question when in this very limited time. I think I still give you a chance to ask some questions. I think not more than 3 questions. 3 questions is enough. I think it's not more than enough. Okay, so that's why I just raise your hand and then directly ask the question, and directly Prof. Amin will answer the question. So, okay.
You can please unmute your microphone and you can ask question directly. No problem.
Okay, just ask the question directly to Prof. Aminul. Just unmute your phone. Yeah. Okay. Now is the chance for you to ask the question. Okay. Is there any question? Come on.
You can just unmute and okay, they say they raise hand. Please just ask the question. You don't have to raise hand.
Yeah.
Jafar Sulaiman and Dal laptop.
Assalamualaikum.
Assalamualaikum.
Okay.
Good afternoon, good evening, good morning. Please, I am a beginner. Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. That's right.
I'm a beginning researcher, and the concept paper is sounds interesting for me. So I've just started my PhD reading the literature review now. So I feel like please some more information is needed on the concept paper. Thank you very much.
All right. I think I did explain the concept paper. You have to have introduction, then literature review, then research methodology, followed by your theoretical framework, hypothesis, and finally conclusion. In the conclusion, you have to basically explain the expected outcomes of the research. That's what makes it a concept paper. Is that clear, brother Jafar?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Jazakallah khair.
Okay. There's one raised hand, Dar laptop.
Please. The laptop.
You can unmute and speak. Whoever there.
Professor?
Yeah, please.
My name is Sheila. I would like to ask one question regarding this for beginner also. Shall we have the hypothesis or the proposition only?
If it is a concept paper, then it's just propositions, yes, not really hypothesis. But if it is an empirical paper, then your hypothesis is a must, definitely, because you are testing and you are concluding on your hypothesis, right?
Okay, my thesis will be an quantitative empirical study, but for the conceptual paper, I'm trying to do first based on my literature review and all that. So I should have introduction, literature review, after that theory.
After the theory, then your research methodology. How are you going to conduct the research? You have not conducted the research yet, so you are going to write your proposed research methodology. And finally, you will have a proposed theoretical or conceptual framework and propositions. And then in the conclusion, you will basically write your expected outcomes. What are you expecting after completion of this research?
Professor,
Yes.
when I do that theoretical framework, which I have developed, for right now I'm in my semester 2 and I have not finished my framework. I have done it like almost 75%. I should expose the whole model. Is it what I have developed, or I can modify it?
It's a very good question. You should never expose your full framework of PhD in any paper. Never do that.
Okay.
Because then you are losing the novelty of your PhD research. So when you are going to defend your PhD thesis finally, you will have problem. People will say, what is new? What is new? You know, so do not expose your final framework of PhD thesis in any paper before you complete your PhD.
Okay, thank you very much, Professor. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Sir, my question is,
Yes.
what is the difference between problem statement and research gap?
What is your name, brother?
Muhammad Asim,
And which country are you from?
Pakistan.
Oh, you're from Pakistan. Okay. What is the difference between research problem and research gap? Is there?
Yes, sir.
All right. A research gap, basically, you will review literature. And from there, you will find out what has been done and what has not been done. That's the literature gap. That gives you the space, opportunity to do new research. But when it comes to problem statement of a research problem, it's a bit different. In a research problem, definitely you will have your research gap. Then you have to connect it with the problem, the data, some statistical data from the industry itself. That will define, okay, your research problem. So you'll have your literature gap plus some statistical data from the industry. Say, for example, you are doing a research on organization performance of manufacturing industry in Malaysia. Then when you have the literature gap there, then you have to have backup statistical data that manufacturing industry in Malaysia is having in terms of organization performance. So you may provide some kind of data on sales or profitability and whatnot. So academic gap, then backup with the statistical data from the industry where the problem is rooted. That's called research problem. Is that clear, brother?
Yes, sir.
All right. Thank you.
Prof, may I have a question, Prof?
Sure, brother. Brother Ahmad Rafiki. From which country
Yes,
are
Prof.
you?
I'm from Indonesia, Prof.
Very good. I was expecting someone from Indonesia.
Yes, Prof. Actually, very simple question, Prof.
Sure.
How you filter which publisher that is good for us? Because we know thousands of journals in the market are available. So how you choose which publisher that maybe you have a preference? Thank you, Prof.
I think when it comes to publishers, some are very well established publishers we know of, but there are also new publishers who can be equally good. So in Malaysia, basically Ministry of Education used to provide us the list of blacklisted journals. So when we send papers for publication, we avoid all those journals. I'm not very sure whether in Indonesia, Ministry of Education does provide that kind of list. If you have that kind of list, follow that list, it will be easier. Otherwise, you have to have ways of looking at the journal. You can just go to the website of the journal and look at the indexing and some of the publication, you would know that this is not a good journal. Okay, and if you go through the journal publication process, you will see that within 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, that guarantee is given for publication, you know it is not a good journal. And if you are submitting a journal, paper to a journal, and then within 1 week, 2 weeks, you get the review report, it is not a good journal. It takes time. So there are ways of looking at, there is no rule of thumb that I can say, follow that, and you can conclude whether it's a good journal or not good journal. But in Malaysia, that we are fortunate because the ministry will always provide us every year the list of the blacklisted journals are given. So when we send papers, we will avoid those journals. All right, brother. Did I answer your question?
Thank you very much, Prof.
Okay. Baba Zulkarnain, can I have a question from your university staff? Anyone? At least you have to unmute your microphone, Baba. Prof, you have to unmute your microphone. You have to unmute your microphone, Bapa. Prof. Zulkarnain, you have to unmute your microphone. You are muted.
Sorry.
Okay, yes.
Okay, I'm waiting for the question both from the lecture and also from the students.
Prof,
Yes.
can I ask one question?
Sure. Please go ahead.
Good evening, Prof. I'm Punita from Malaysia. I just have two questions. First is it the concept paper will be like a summarize of chapter 1? And the second question is, to avoid the plagiarism, basically for the literature review and all the citation we are taking from someone's research sentences. So if we change the words and everything and we cite, that is not considered as plagiarism, right? And we are avoiding it, right? So that's only that question.
Okay, the first question was the concept paper.
Yes.
The concept paper cannot be the summary of chapter 1. It's basically summary of chapter 1, 2, 3.
Okay, yeah, we include the research method and also the literature review, but it's more like a not in a long term, but a very short,
very condensed paper. You are not putting your full framework. As I said earlier, never disclose your full framework before you complete your PhD. Never do that. So part of a framework, or you can have a different framework from what you are doing in PhD. So basically, you have to have literature review done well, and based on that, you can even write 2-3 concept paper. Say, for example, you write one concept paper based on independent, one concept paper based on moderating, independent, moderating, and dependent. So you can have different concept paper.
So is it like the concept paper can based on our research question also? To answer a research question, we do one concept paper. Is it okay?
Possible also. And your second question is basically
about plagiarism.
Yeah, when you are citing people, if you are taking anything directly and putting it's already plagiarism.
It means the sentence to sentence, the beginning until the end.
Yes, if you take complete sentence, it's already plagiarism. You have to rephrase it. You have to write it in own way, but don't forget to cite it.
All right.
The problem is many authors will take things from people and rephrase it, and they will not cite. That is wrong.
Okay, so that's the problem there.
Yeah, there are two problems. Okay. One is you are taking full sentence or full paragraph, and then you are putting citation. That is wrong. Even though you are putting citation, it's still plagiarized.
All right.
Number two, you get idea from people's paper and you put in your own words and you are not putting citation. That is also wrong.
Okay. Thank you, Prof.
Okay.
Professor, sorry, Professor, I have another question. If we put another person's another person's sentence, but we put it in inverted commas, is that okay?
APA style doesn't support that. Am I right? If you follow APA style, you cannot put inverted comma and citation. You now follow APA.
How should I do that, Prof? How should I do that? Because sometimes definition, these kind of things we follow, right? So
the definition is okay. If you are putting the definition of key terms, possibly acceptable, but still most of the journal will not allow you more than 15% or 20% of plagiarism, right? So even definition, you cannot put straightforward 100% what you get from people. So you can still modify a bit and then you put it. There are some rules, to avoid plagiarism.
Okay.
And you can learn those rules. Some rules are basically like you change in one sentence, you change 2-3 words. Then it's not plagiarized. You can change that. Or if you are taking 5 sentences, after first sentence, second sentence, you rephrase. And then third sentence, keep it, fourth sentence, you rephrase again. So there are certain rules of avoiding plagiarism that you will learn slowly. That art you will learn slowly, okay?
Okay. Glad to know that, Prof. Thank you so much. Because I never thought about like changing two words or 3 words like that. Normally, I replace the whole thing. But sometimes for definition and some sentence that I feel like I really cannot change, I try to put it in inverted comma. That's why I asked.
Okay.
Okay. Now we have a question from one of the Medan area staff.
Very good.
Salwari. Okay, please, Sabrina.
Thank you for the chance, Prof. Actually, Ahmad Rafiki is our lecturer True. The one that asks you first. I want to ask for the requirements for the reference, Prof. So, if in Indonesia, perhaps the journal make like 80% for the primer references and then 20% for the secondary references. Is there any requirements like that for the index journal publisher? And then the second one, actually, I heard that for the references, we have to use like, if you want to apply in Q1 or Q4, so you have to use the references Q1 and Q4 too. Is it true, or please give some explanation?
The first question, basically, more specifically, we as reviewer or journal editor, I am part of I think now 5 or 6 journals in the editorial board, and also chief editor of 2 journals. When we look at papers as editor or reviewer, the first focus would be looking at whether you have at least 40% latest citation, 40% latest, 40% last 5 years papers. That's what we look at, rather than looking at primary and secondary. We do not really look at that way. All right, that's the first question. The second question, sorry, what was the second question, Sabrina? Sorry.
Or the references using Q1 until Q4 too, or?
Okay, good question. There are many journals. If you submit a paper, they will return the paper and tell you to cite some of their papers published in their journal. Actually, this is a very good strategy to get your paper accepted. Say, for example, you are submitting a paper of the name of the journal, say, for example, Journal of Business. In your paper, cite 5 or 6 papers published in Journal of Business. Then the chances of getting your paper published is high. Okay, but there is no rule. It says that if you want to publish a paper in Q1, then your citation should be Q1 published journal. There's no such rule. If you are publishing a paper in Q4 and all papers must be published in Q1, Q2, Q3, no. As long as your cited papers are from peer-reviewed journal. Any journal which is peer-reviewed, at least peer-reviewed, and minimum indexing, Google Scholar, ProQuiz, what do you call the open access journal, EBSCO host. There are certain indexing are there. EconLead, the simple citation, but peer-reviewed journal. Sabrina, for you to know, there are many world-reputed journals out there, and they are not indexed in ISI and Scopus. Many. They refuse to get indexed in Scopus and ISI, but they are top-ranked journal in the world. Okay, so it's not about Scopus and ISI, it's because it become a business. And all university, we try to get our university to be high-ranking university. So we need Scopus and ISI and Web of Science. So it is a business, connecting business. The people are making billions of dollars. And unfortunately, academics, we have fallen in that trap. And I do not know when we can come out of that trap. I do not know. Okay. All right.
Okay, I think this is enough. I wish I could extend this discussion, but the time is always be limitation for us. And in a few minutes, I think we'll go to breaking the fast. So I think the discussion should be stopped now, and I'll get back to Angga Tarigan. Thank you very much, Prof. Aminul. I think it's very, very wonderful presentation for today, and I think it will be very useful for our student. Even though there is no one question from my student, I think they take note all, and they will have an opportunity today. Okay, now I'll get it back to Angga Tarigan.
Thank you for Professor Zulkarnain Lubis and Professor Dr. Muhammad Amin. That was very excellent presentation, and that was very good material. I really enjoy with your presentation. And finally, I would like to thank you who have been willing and taking the time and sharing knowledge. And hopefully what we have done can be blessing for us. So it should be applause for you.
Thank you. Selamat berbuka.
Selamat berbuka, okay. And then now we have to end this session. I don't know how to say, but let me say Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Sorry.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi
wabarakatuh.
Thank you very much,
Thanks.
Prof.
Thank you very much, Prof.
Inshallah. Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you, Prof. Amidul.
Sure, Prof. Inshallah. I will share my. I have few webinars.
You can share the slide, and then I will give it to the committee, and I think the committee will post it in the